Hey everybody, it's GalmudX and welcome back to another Magic Arena Cube Draft. Here we have a super solid opening pack with several ways to go. As always, that's kind of just how I open these videos because that's just how the cube is. So we have Alrund's Epiphany, which is a really powerful late game, just game-ending card, being able to take an extra turn and giving you a couple more creatures to attack your opponent with. Little 1/1 flyers, so they're evasive as well, very likely to get in a couple damage with those. Definitely a solid game ender in a splashy kind of blue deck. We have Terragrid, God of Fright, which Terragrid's Lantern is the scariest part of this card, but you can also try to draft a deck that has ways to force your opponent to discard or sacrifice cards. Terragrid is obviously pretty insane with Thoughtseize and stuff, which is in the cube, but the Lantern is always good even if you don't draft around it particularly well. It's just a great control finisher. With the extra mana to untap it, you can just spam that ability over and over. Really powerful card there. Thassa, Deep Dwelling is fun to draft around. Grab a bunch of creatures with good enter the battlefield effects and loop them over and over again with the exile ability. Old Growth Trolls are pretty restrictive mana cost, but in a heavy green deck, quite a powerful card. Rejuvenator is good in the ramp strategies, and some good like mono white aggro cards. I think I'm going to take Terragrid here. I kind of convinced myself when I was thinking of what powerful combos are in the cube for the front half of Terragrid that you could pick up. So if you actually cast the 4/5 Menace here and try to make your opponent sacrifice cards, discard cards, you could get some crazy things out of your opponent's deck. Obviously, most decks in the cube will have tons of quite powerful spells, quite powerful permanents, and having a Terragrid out and then Thoughtseizing your opponent is living the absolute dream. Just pick and choose the best card from their hand, put it on your field. So definite Thoughtseize here. It's also just a really solid card in general, just hindering your opponent's game plan, getting rid of whatever you think is their most important card in hand at the time. So we can't take a black card here, because the only one in black is Witch's Cauldron, which I don't think is that good even in a sacrifice deck. It's just a little bit slow, so I'm not a huge fan of that, and we're not a deck that's trying to sacrifice our own permanents yet. Out of the other colors, Heliod could be okay here, because white-black can do a life gain theme, where Heliod would be quite solid. Could take just like a Devil's Play for Rakdos. Maybe one of these other white cards is just good in a more controlling deck, something like Valor's Stance here to kill a big creature. I don't really know here. This pack is actually not that great. Ronus is quite solid in decks with some pretty beefy creatures, but I don't really know if green-black would be the place for that, especially when we have like stuff trying to make our opponents discard stuff. I think I'll take Devil's Play here because I could definitely see Rakdos having more cards that are trying to force people to discard and sacrifice than really any other color pair. Although we do see a really solid Golgari card here, Binding the Old Gods. Just destroy any target for 4, then grab a forest from your deck, then give your whole field Death Touch. So that is solid, but I think Phyrexian Arena is also great, and we can play this in just mono black here. At the beginning of our upkeep, we draw a card and lose a life, so just a powerful draw engine. We start drawing 2 a turn as soon as we have this out. We just have to worry a little bit about the amount of life we're paying into it, so we don't end up killing ourselves with our own black cards. All of our life payments from Thoughtseize and Phyrexian Arena. Disfigure's a great cheap removal spell in black. Shark Typhoon's a really powerful card for a controlling deck. If we go Dimir, any deck with a lot of non-creature spells, this card can absolutely go off on the front half, and the cycling part, the second half, so to speak, is quite good as well. Just flash in a good blocker or a good attacker and draw a card, and it's uncounterable because you're just using the ability to do that, not actually casting a spell. So Shark Typhoon is real solid. Alrund can be a good late-game draw engine off of the end step ability there, choosing a card type, revealing the top 2 cards of your library, and putting the cards of that type in your hand. But we do already have the Phyrexian Arena, so we've got one good draw engine already. I'm thinking Disfigure or Shark Typhoon are my choices here. Don't think I'm going to take the black-red duel, because I don't even know if I'm doing black-red. Yeah, I'm going to take a Shark Typhoon, I think. Dimir with a Shark Typhoon seems like it would potentially be pretty fun, but Black is definitely our most prevalent color, our most likely color to get played here, and we see a solid card for black in this pack. I don't see much reason not to take it. Feed the Swarm, 2 mana to destroy a creature or enchantment an opponent controls. We do lose life equal to the spell's permanent, or the permanent's converted mana cost, so that would be the biggest reason not to take it, as we are getting quite a bit of life payments already, Thoughtseize Arena and Feed the Swarm. But now we can just try to draft Lifelinkers highly, or anything that gains life highly, and hopefully protect ourselves from that sort of stuff. You know, 2 mana, 2/3 Death Touch Lifelinkers are in this cube. Vraska's Contempt, 4 mana Exile, something gain 2 life is in this cube. There's definitely some options. Legion's Landing is a lifelinker, and with the amount of life we're paying for stuff, black-white is definitely an option. Thassa's Oracle would be fun if we can get it to go off, but we do need a lot of cards to synergize with this for it to go off, allowing you to win the game when you have an empty library. Yeah, I guess I'll go with Legion's Landing. That seems like a path we're pretty likely to be happy to be going down if we end up in white-black life gain with the amount of life payments we have going on here. And I could definitely see just taking a Sacred Cat here for that reason, but there's also Bedevil if we do end up in the Rakdos. Devil's Play and Bedevil are a good start to that with just good removal spells. If I'm taking a white card, I think it will be Sacred Cat over Amiria's Call, because it is a very expensive potential game ender. The fact that it's a land and a sorcery is quite good, but if we were taking a white card, I think we do really want the lifelink. I guess I'm just going to go with Bedevil here, because Sacred Cat doesn't actually seem that crazy solid to me. Although, this is a little weird. I might take a white-black duel over the black-red duel, even though I have 2 red cards and only 1 white card. Because I just really... I've got my fingers crossed that we see some better stuff in white coming up. 3-Minute Inspector is, like, fine. It's definitely pretty solid. 1 mana for 1/2, you get to draw a card off of it if you spend 2 later in the game. But it just doesn't seem that good here for our strategy, or really like it's pushing us in that direction. Take another card for a Dimir deck with a lot of instants and sorceries to go with Shark Typhoon. Don't have a ton right now, just 2 sorceries, but we are pretty early in the draft. Talrand is an option if we end up going down the blue path. Our second color is definitely quite open to interpretation. We'll see as things progress for sure. I guess I'll take a Clarion Spirit here, potentially giving us some 1/1 spirits every time that we cast 2 spells in 1 turn. Think Twice and Censor would both be pretty solid with Talrand. I don't really want to go into like a deck that's trying to mill my opponent, I think. I think Think Twice is a little bit better with Talrand because we can cast it twice, which is good. And we do get an Alrend really late here, but also Sajiri Shelter pretty late for white-black, but this doesn't gain any life, it just protects something. It's not like perfect. I'll just take an Alrend. Seems better for the blue-black deck than Sajiri Shelter seems for the white-black deck, and I don't really like any of this, but I'll take the curiosity. Get a white-blue duel, so we are a little more open to being the full Esper. There are a lot of cards I like here. I'm going to start up with the colorless cards. Cosmos Elixir, being able to gain us 2 life during every end step is good with the life payment cards. This also, if we gain enough life and go to over our starting life total, if we go to 21 life, we start just drawing an extra card every end step, which can be really good. Mazemind Tome is great as well, just another draw engine. Draw a card off of this 4 times, or scry and draw cards in any combination of those 2 effects, whether or not we have the 2 mana up. Once we hit the 4 counters on it, we do get to gain 4 life off of this. So pretty good early game card there. Gonti's just a great black card, 4 mana for a 2/3 Death Touch, so it trades well on blocks, and we get to draw the best card out of our opponent's top 4 to cast against them. Hostage Taker's great for Dimir, just steal the best card on their field and cast it against them. And then we have 2 great counter spells here, Saw It Coming and Supreme Will for blue. I guess the number one thing we're incredibly likely to be doing here is playing black, so I should just take the best black card here, because that is going into our deck no matter what it ends up being. So we will scoop that up for that reason, even if it may not be technically the strongest of all of those cards. And here I think I'm going to take Rankle because this is a fantastic combo with Terragrid. Actually, just an insane combo with Terragrid. If we play this turn 4, Terragrid turn 5, attack in with this, have each player discard a card and sacrifice a creature, and then we just get whatever they discarded and sacrificed, that could just be living the absolute dream. So really nice combo with the Terragrid, and I'll take it for that reason. Other cards in this pack we could use would be the Godless Shrine if we end up in white-black. Solemn Simulacrum can mana fix us in any color scheme we end up being. And then other than that, maybe just like a Gutter Bones, I don't know. Nimble Obstructionist, a fine little counter spell for the blue-black deck. Well, I like Murderous Rider a ton. Does anything here combo really well with Terragrid is the question. Oh dear, Thief of Sanity is quite powerful as well, but again, black is the only color we're 100% playing. So we have Thief of Sanity, great for Dimir. Murderous Rider, which is just super solid. Get that lifelinker out, destroy something on the adventure half. Inscription of Ruin does combo well with Terragrid by allowing us to make our opponent discard some cards, but I think in general it's just not that powerful of a card. Valky would be really good in Rakdos for the Tybalt half. Yeah, I think Murderous Rider is just 100% making the cut every time. Inscription of Ruin's really close, though, between these two. Let's go all in. Go all in on Terragrid. Pick up that Inscription of Ruin here. Bloodchief's Thirst is a pretty efficient removal spell. 1 mana to destroy a creature planeswalker that costs 2 or less, or if we kick it, spend the full 4 mana, we destroy anything. Seems pretty solid. We're heavy into black, so Grey Merchant actually does seem like a great way to get back into the game in the late game after paying life in the early game. Yeah, no, I'm actually thinking we're more into the Grey Merchant here, although Bloodchief's Thirst is a great removal spell. I guess Grey Merchant is more likely to wheel than Bloodchief's Thirst, but Grey Merchant is also just a really popular card. People love Gary. Gary's everybody's best friend, so I feel like even players that aren't that heavy into black will probably overdraft Grey Merchant of Asphodel, and it's not very likely to wheel, even though it theoretically would be more likely than the Bloodchief's Thirst. Well, Fatal Push is a really good removal spell here. Just in black, 1 mana to destroy a creature with converted mana cost 2 or less, or if one of our cards left the battlefield this turn, we destroy something that costs 4 or less. Pretty solid against the aggressive decks, although I guess it's not great against the rampier, slowier decks. Could also just take a Grim Tutor here. If we draft really heavily around Terragrid, we can use this to search our library for Terragrid and put it into our hand. We do lose life to cast this, so we could, if there's anything that combos with losing life, we've got the deck for it here. Yeah, Grim Tutor might be the funnest card here. I think Fatal Push would be better, or maybe like Brazen Borrower for if we go blue-black, just slow our opponents down, bouncing one of their things. I'm just going to take the funnest card here. One of my favorite parts of the cube is the fact that it is not super competitive because of the fact that it's not ranked. So you can kind of just try to do silly, fun things that might not actually be the greatest strategies ever, but because everything in the cube is so powerful, you're always going to end up with a serviceable deck, and yeah, you can't, you'll never know if you can pull off the crazy combos if you don't try it. So we'll take the Grim Tutor and go for the combos. So Dread Wanderer is more for an aggressive deck. I feel like we're definitely not going down that route. So I'm going to take Cruel Reality here, which is a great game ender. 7 mana to enchant somebody, and then in their upkeep, they have to sacrifice a creature planeswalker. And if they can't, they just lose 5 life. So it kills them in 4 turns if they don't have any creatures out. And if they do, and we have Terragrid out, we can keep stealing whatever they're sacrificing. That could potentially be pretty good. I don't really see anything great for us here. I'm thinking that we're more likely to be in Dimir than any other color scheme. If we do multicolored, so maybe Silent Departure just to slow people down. Although Icy Manipulator can slow people down in just mono black, which would help if we end up getting like Phyrexian Obliterator. I could see this deck actually leaning into mono black, and the blue cards in this pack aren't that intensely powerful. Mythos of Nethroi, 3 mana to destroy a permanent at instant speed if we're not green and white. Yeah, best card for us here, just 3 mana instant, destroy a creature. Not bad. I like Maze Mind Tome a lot here, again because it's a draw engine in the early game that can gain us some life. once we hit 4 counters on it, but there are really great Dimir cards here. Supreme Will, probably my favorite out of these 2 counter spells, because this alternatively can get used as a draw spell to dig for whatever you need. And Fae of Wishes being able to cast Granted is quite fun, just a good adventure to grab whatever you need from the sideboard. Any non-creature, which is important to remember. Take a Nimble Obstructionist here. We're definitely not a Throne of the Godfarer deck. I'm not sure any deck in the cube is a Throne of the Godfarer deck, to be honest. This just wants you to go really wide with a bunch of little creatures quickly to go off. And I feel like there's just better Anthem effects for those kinds of decks. Thief of Sanity Wield. Oh, bless the Lord of RNG. I guess we're Dimir. Wow, are we Dimir? Yeah, Dimir is wide open. I think we'll take the dual land here, actually. I mean, Champion of Wits is solid, but I'm not a massive fan of Glasspool Mimic or Waker of Waves. Waker of Waves is fun when you have reanimation spells, but we just don't here. So I'll just take the mana fixing. Alright, well, our lane has been chosen for us by wheeling that Thief of Sanity. This card was always just a brutal card in Limited, but in Cube it's especially rough to play against because of the fact that everything in Cube is so powerful, everything in your deck is so powerful, that your opponent is always just casting something really good from your deck when they get to grab 3 cards every time, or the best card out of 3 every time, so really rough to play against. So Liliana combos well with Tergrid by making everybody discard a card off the +1. If we get some self-mill, she can even use herself as a removal spell with that -3 ability, so that could be solid here. Inscription of Insight seems like a bit much in terms of the mana cost for what you're getting out of it, but it is really good in the late game. If you can kick this, do the 8 mana, it's pretty good, but again, that is a lot of mana to do it. Witch of the Moors is actually really solid with enough life gain. We are leaning towards trying to pick up life gain when we see it, so Witch of the Moors could be great, but that might wheel. Atris will almost definitely wheel, although Atris is a very powerful card. So we have several great options for what we could pick when that wheels. I'm sure that will be a difficult pick when it comes back to us again, but probably leaning towards Atris is just a good draw spell. I don't really like any of these cards. There's just not a lot in Dimir. I guess there's a counter spell. I feel like I'm the kind of deck that is often just tapping out during our turn, though, so not really holding up mana super often. I guess I have a decent amount of like instant speed removal, but I have just got like a lot of powerful planeswalkers, legendary creatures and stuff. We're just on turn 4, just like I'm going to dump this out. Turn 5, I'm going to dump that out, just tapping out all the time. So I'm just going to take a mana fixing over a counterspell, honestly. Counterspells are at their best in decks with tons of instants, so that you can hold up a counterspell, and if your opponent doesn't end up casting something that you want to kill, you can still do something with your turn. And any deck where it's like you either cast your 4 mana card or you hold up a counterspell, it's really rough to justify holding up the counterspell. It's just like much harder to do. Kind of just like Grasp of Darkness here, just a cheap removal spell. We're definitely heavier into black than blue, so it shouldn't be too difficult to cast. Woe Strider's good in a sacrifice deck, but I don't think we're a self-sacrifice deck. Lay Claim's pretty powerful, although it is a lot of mana. 7 mana, but we get to gain control of any permanents, which is obviously pretty good in Cube a lot of the time. Pretty bad against like mono white, mono red, the really aggressive decks, but any other deck, it's a really good late game play. Not trying to reanimate anything with Necromancer. Copy a permanent for 4 seems fun, but not crazy. Nightmare Shepherd is really good with enough creatures. We've got 11 here, so it could just be Nightmare Shepherd. Although Treasure Map is a solid card for more controlling decks. Scry a few times, get some treasure tokens, and draw off of it. I do really like Nightmare Shepherd, though. It's just a fun card. Whenever one of your creatures dies, you get to turn it into a 1/1 token version of itself, but it keeps all of its abilities. So with a bunch of creatures with good abilities, the card is very solid. And not doing the reanimation thing, so I don't think it's Blood for Bones. Into the Royal just slows somebody down. Splendid Vision just lets us draw out of our top 6, but we can run that over an island, which is interesting. Don't really want to play any of these cards. Although I guess with Talrend, like Into the Royal could be pretty solid. Ruin Crab and Teferi's Tutelage. I think it's too late to try to just jump in on the mill plan here. I don't really think that's what we're doing. I'm going to take Poison the Cup, which is just a great removal spell. 3 mana, instant speed, destroy a target creature. If you foretell it, it only costs 2 on a later turn, and you scry when you do it. Yeah, I think we have enough creatures in here that we're just like a mid-range, somewhat controlling deck that's actually trying to just clear our opponent's board and kill them with our own stuff, so I don't think that we're like trying to mill somebody out over a long game. There's Phyrexian Obliterator. I don't know if we lived the mono black dream here, but we can certainly lean heavy into black. Heavy enough that we can cast Phyrexian Obliterator and maybe even have it on the board when we cast a Grey Merchant sometimes. That would be awesome. If we can do the mono black dream, like I'm going to go for it because we have Grey Merchant and Phyrexian Obliterator, the 2 biggest reasons to be mono black. So we'll see. Nothing in here for mono black, so if I cut every blue card out of this deck, let me just make a pile of the blue and see how many cards that is. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11, it's 12 cards getting cut now, so we'd have 20 cards main deck. Yeah, we didn't quite live the mono black dream. We're going to have to splash a little bit of blue. We're definitely splashing in Thief of Sanity before anything else, but I think we're definitely running just black as the core of our deck. Prophetic Prism does help splash a little bit, but we've got Pools and Evolving Wilds already. It doesn't seem awesome. Command the Dreadhorde is definitely playable. Helps our deck get even more black, get even closer to mono black here. Don't think we'll make it all the way, though. Yeah, I don't think I'm playing Doomed Necromancer or Exquisite Blood, but I guess Exquisite Blood is more likely because it's really funny with Grey Merchant. But the amount of life gain I have is just not enough to go with the Exquisite Blood, unfortunately. I'll take Lay Claim here, because we're not casting either of those black cards. Well, Wheel the Ruin Crab, I suppose, if we want to mill a bit. Okay, so we are in the deck building phase now. Let's see what we decide to build here. I think I'm just going to cut every blue card first, and then I'm just going to put them in one by one, just put in the best things to splash. Definitely not going to go for any double blue costs, because it's way easier to splash cards that only require 1 color of their respective mana than cards that require like 2 or 3. So I'm just going to start cutting everything in blue and then throwing things back in. I could even see just like Thief of Sanity, Shark Typhoon, something like that for the blue here. So we need to throw 3 cards back in. I think Shark Typhoon is just a really easy splash. You know, if we get this out in the late game, it's pretty massive. We've got plenty of non-creatures even in just black. We have 3 instants, 5 sorceries, 2 artifacts, 3 enchantments. I guess one of those is a creature, but we've also got a planeswalker. So 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 non-creatures. That's definitely enough for Shark Typhoon to do some things, even if we cast the main portion rather than cycling it. So I like that in here. And what else? A lot of our blue does require 2 blue mana, unfortunately, but with like Boon of the Wishgiver, if we don't have double blue, we can just cycle it in the early game. It's a very low opportunity cost to run that. Because, you know, worst case scenario, we always just spend 1 mana, discard a card, draw a card. That's always fine. Yeah, actually, I've convinced myself because of that that's just really easy to run. How many instants and sorceries do I have for Terramander? I have 9 for Terramander. Although I still don't think I'm, like, aggressive enough to want that. I could see, I don't know, I guess I have a lot of 3 mana cards, so maybe not Illyrios, but it's possible. Selendie Vision could be nice here because it gives us a card that we can use as a blue source. And then when we don't need to use it as a blue source, we can just cast it as a spell and actually get some value off of it. So, you know, rather than playing 3 islands here, we could just play 2 islands in a Selendie Vision. Something like that. That's a possibility. I think it's between Illyrios, Obstructionist, Selendie Vision, Think Twice. Just all those like 1 blue costing cards. I mean, I can see Illyrios just because it's several creatures to block with. Gives us more to help survive the early game. Because, yeah, a few of our 3 mana cards we don't even want to actually play on 3. Like, Grim Tutor, if we're getting beaten down, we never want to cast this on turn 3 because it doesn't add to the board in any way and we lose 3 life to play it. Same with Phyrexian Arena, we lose some life to play and it doesn't add to the board. Mythos and Ascription both have powerful effects for certain situations, so it's possible that we're holding them off for other reasons. So we don't have like an unreasonable amount of stuff at 3 mana, so I could see just putting Illyrios back in. Definitely not a super creature heavy deck here. Pretty controlling here. Try to just drop down 1 like explosive card. Like Thief of Sanity can take over games for sure. Phyrexian Obliterator can. Terrorgrid is definitely going to with the Lantern, or the front half there we've got some combos with. And maybe trying to go for like a late game big Grey Merchant of Asphodel swing. Got some big game-ending cards here. Command the Dreadhorde, Cruel Reality, and Shark Typhoon. All of those can take over the game at high mana costs. So we're kind of like a mono-black control deck, splashing a tiny bit of blue. Pretty interesting. This is going to be a strange deck to run, that's for sure. But that is part of what is so cool about Cube in general. There are just so many powerful cards that you always end up with 45 cards that are actually playable every time. So, like, there's just always vastly different decks and strategies a lot of the time that are available. You know, not every blue-black deck will look that similar, whereas in any normal draft format, I would say in, like, Kaldheim and Guilds of Ravnica, stuff like that, most decks that are, like, just blue-black will look pretty similar. Like, you're going to see a ton of Narfies and Snow stuff going on, and then in, like, Guilds of Ravnica, you're going to see a lot of just Surveil, that kind of stuff. But here it's like, you know, some blue-black decks will be like really trying to mill the opponent with Ruin Crab, Ashiok, Jace, that kind of stuff. Some blue-black decks will be really trying to mill themselves. Some will just be a standard sort of control deck with a lot of counter spells, maybe some Wraths in black, like Languish. And then there's like quote-unquote blue-black decks like this that are just kind of mono-black control with a little touch of blue. We'll splash. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. And I'm excited to try this thing out, see how well it does. We're definitely changing our land count here. We've only got 4 blue cards. All of them only require 1 blue mana, so we're just going to go boop, boop, boop. Go down to 3 islands, 1 fetid pools, and an evolving wilds for blue sources. Seems good enough to me, because we want a ton of black sources. We always want to cast Phyrexian Obliterator as soon as possible. So now we have 14 black sources, 12 swamps, fetid pools, and evolving wilds, potentially. This boon, we cycle it for colorless, so it doesn't even really have to be a blue card there. We don't need blue mana till turn 3. And even then, Thief of Sanity is a powerful enough card we can cast it much later and still be happy with it. Illyrios, though, we kind of do want on turn 3. I could see actually maybe getting rid of Illyrios and putting in a more expensive blue card then. Because then we're okay with not drawing our blue till later. Or we're more okay with that. Guess that was definitely one thing I did not consider with having Illyrios be at 3 mana, is if we cut Illyrios here, then every blue card in our deck, we're okay with not having blue mana till like turn 5, because Thief of Sanity is just that powerful, we can wait for it. Interesting. Maybe we run like Lake Claim instead or something, just a big high mana cost blue card. Or maybe the Inscription of Abundance, or Inscription of Insight. Just costs 1 more mana. Pretty versatile card. I don't know, I'll keep it for now. We really don't have a lot of creatures either, so Illyrios fills that hole as well. Let's just get into the gameplay, see how the deck does. Maybe we do a little bit of deck adjustments as we go forth here. Alright, here we are in round 1. We have 2 mana, which is enough to foretell Poison the Cup and cast it, which lets us scry 2 when we kill something with it. We can even Thoughtseize, see what our opponent has going on. Definitely need to hit 2 lands, but scry 2 digs us towards that. If we hit a blue source, we can cycle our Shark Typhoon. I'm going to keep it here. We've got ways to get out of this situation, potentially. Let's see what our opponent's on here. Looks like just a Gruul aggro deck. Experimental Frenzy is potentially going to draw them a ton of cards. Don't have great early game plays, really, but Poison the Cup, I can kill like any of these things, and I'll be happy killing Preserver or Hornbeetle. Both of those are creatures that can just get much bigger throughout the game. Yeah, I feel like Experimental Frenzy is the card I'm the least likely to be able to beat, because they just draw a ton of cards per turn off of it, potentially. Would love to have like a Languish in this deck. That would be really solid in here. Because if this hand just had like Languish instead of any of these 3 cards, it would be perfect for this situation. Icy Manipulator is the draw. We do have the 3rd land now, so we Poison the Cup, we scry 2, and we're getting pretty close, hopefully, to hitting that 4th mana. Llanowar Visionary from our opponent. We're definitely going to kill Wildborn Preserver because that can get permanently bigger than everything else. Pelt Collector can get bigger, but it'll take more time, I think, for that. Preserver, they can just play like a 1 mana creature and then spend like 4 mana and make that a 6/6 out of nowhere. Evolving Wilds, well, it's the 4th mana, so I think we need it here. Even if it does come to play tapped, we are taking a beating now because our 4th mana comes into play tapped, which is unfortunate, but we can drop down a Gonti, which is a pretty good blocker. A 2/3 to block their 2/2s, and we get to cast the best card out of their top 4 if we have enough mana to play it. Could help us stabilize, not against a Captivating Crew. Quite a solid play from our opponent there. For 4 mana, they can just steal one of our creatures and hit us. So if I just play Gonti here, they hit for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They just steal Gonti and kill us. If I play Rankle, they just steal Rankle and kill us. If I play Icy Manipulator, I tap down Captivating Crew and take 5. I think the only way out of this game is if I somehow had like a Wrath effect. I guess I can Shark Typhoon and try to trade with Captivating Crew because they can only use its ability as a sorcery. They can't use it during Declare blocks. We have to just get Captivating Crew off this board. You know, for 4 mana, they just, if we play any creature in our main phase, for 4 mana, they win the game next turn. So we just, that's not an option for us. Ronus is the play. Well, that's pretty terrifying, because with that coming out, that triggers another counter onto Pelt Collector, so they will have another creature with power 4 or greater, as long as Pelt Collector is still on the board. So that is a 5/5 Death Touch Indestructible that can give creatures trample for 3. Which is really brutal. If they don't attack with Llanowar Visionary, they can give trample here, but they do attack with the Visionary, so that is good for us. So we know they can't trample over, at least, when we block Captivating Crew. But it's not looking great for us here. Pretty likely a loss to start things off, just playing against a deck that is too aggressive for us to deal with. Our deck definitely most well positioned against slower, more dirtly decks like the 3+ color decks. I mean, we know Gonti can block now, but with the ability to give trample to things, they have 6 mana up if they hold Visionary back, so they just give trample to the whole field. I'm at 5 life. I can't survive this in any way whatsoever. So that is going to end game 1 pretty quickly there. The number 1 and number 2 things that could have helped us the most there. Number 1 would have been Wrath Effects. Number 2 would have just been more early game plays just in general. So we'll take another look at the deck build and see if there's anything early we can play. We're playing every black card we have. The only early plays we could have would be like maybe a Ruin Crab to block 0/2s instead of Illyrios, but we didn't draw Illyrios anyway, and it was a quote-unquote early play. Yeah, I don't really think there's much we could do to be more well-positioned against that sort of deck. So we're going to keep the deck as is for now. Alright, well, I do want to draw 2 more swamps with this hand to hit the Obliterator. We have Inscription of Ruin, which can kill a early play from our opponent, destroying a creature with mana cost 3 or less. We have Mythos of Nethroi, which can destroy something as well. So 2 decent, cheap removal spells to try to survive during the early game. Our opponent starts up with Shadow Spear. Our deck's not going to have anything to deal with that, but we did draw into Thoughtseize, which is pretty great here. See what they've got going on and stop whatever their best plays are here. Oh, Lord. This is real bad. They do need another green to cast Brontodon, which is good for us, and they need more mana to cast Sky Sovereign, so I guess we get rid of Essica's Chariot. I think that is by far just the most likely card to just take over this game and absolutely destroy us. They get 2 2/2s when they play it. Every time they attack with it, they get another copy of a creature. Get rid of the Chariot. We've got 2 things that can destroy a creature, so we can destroy the Brontodon if they play the Brontodon, and we have Inscription of Ruin to potentially make them discard more cards later and discard that Sky Sovereign before they have enough mana to cast it. We also have Liliana making everybody discard a card. Garruk's Uprising is the play from our opponent, but we know they don't have any creatures big enough to draw off of that yet. If I go for 3 mana here, I can cast Inscription while they only have 2 cards in hand, which could be good. Or while they only have 3 in hand, so we know they discard whatever this is, and probably Brontodon, maybe hold on to Sky Sovereign. They have to discard something decent here, and then Liliana could discard their last card, or Rankle could discard their last card, but that's only if I draw an untapped land next turn. I'm going to go for the discard 2 here. Because we have Liliana and Rankle pushing in more discard later. We just don't get to cast them immediately next turn. They keep the Sky Sovereign. Alright, and it goes to our turn. Play our land, pass, leaving up the Mythos of Nethroi. I do have my emotes on now because I want to use these at some point, but they seem so like cocky and just rude. But they are also really cool looking. Like in response to their nice, I could have like shrugged or something. That's just, I don't know. They do hit Once Upon a Time to hit their 4th land, which scries the top, so they're closer to casting Sky Sovereign, but they need a creature to crew it as well. We can destroy whatever they play there. Now we can play... We could play Obliterator, but I think we're playing Rankle or Liliana here. We just go Liliana. Force some more discards here, seems pretty powerful.
Seize the day, my
Probably discard our Shepherd. Rankle and Obliterator are better here. They discard the Sky Sovereign.
my way.
So I wonder what they're holding on to and what they've drawn into that they've scried to the top. The 5th land is what they scried into, and Garruk Unleashed is what they've held on to there. Well, we'll just play a Hasting Rankle and kill Garruk. We have 3 cards in grave, exactly enough for Liliana to kill the demon, so we kill the whole field here, which seems solid. I'm going to hold on to this land to discard to Liliana. We'll get rid of Garruk there, so now they're just playing off the top while we still have some stuff to play around with. If they can't cast whatever they draw immediately, Rankle can just kill it. Well, now I've drawn a 7 mana card, so I don't want to discard the land. I'm 1 mana away from doing that. Just play Obliterator. Use Rankle to have us both draw a card, and then Liliana will make them discard whatever they've drawn. And we can just discard whatever we draw, so we can hold on to Cruel Reality and a removal spell. And they're going to scoop them up there. Yeah, Rankle plus Liliana is a pretty great combo, because even when they run out of cards there, we can get value by allowing ourselves to loot on every draw, by drawing one and then choosing what to discard out of everything that we have, whereas we make them draw one and immediately discard whatever they just drew. So that was a really solid combination of cards there to take over that game. Of course, our opponent did have some mana issues at the start, but the amount of discard we had to hinder their game plan as well was really rough for them. So 1-1 to start things off heading into round 3 here. Alright, game 3, we have that turn 3 Thief of Sanity. Our curve is pretty awkward in this deck, mainly just like starting on turn 3. So, while it is a slow start, most of our hands are. Got the Damnation sleeves over here. I like that they leave their effect on the board after I close it. It's interesting. We have 5 mana in this hand, so we can make it to Icy Manipulator and have enough mana to use it immediately. Lifecrafter's Bestiary will start things for our opponent. They're on white-green. I think we just dump out Thief of Sanity. White-green. In white, I could see them having the removal for Thief of Sanity, but I don't think green should have removal to kill it this early in the game, because they need a creature out to cast the green removal. So they have to specifically have probably a white removal spell to get rid of the Thief here, so it's definitely possible Thief actually gets to get in instead of just drawing a removal spell out, so we're going to run it out. So if they don't kill it immediately, it is very likely to take over the game. They do have the Stonecoil Serpent to block it, and it does have protection from multicolored. However, we do just have the Mythos to destroy a creature, which is monocolored, so it can work here. So we'll do that, hit them. If we draw a 1-mana card, we'll cast it. If we don't, we'll play our tapped land. Don't think I'll want to cycle this. We could play a Llanowar Elves here. Ramp up. It seems probably not great. I think Scavenging Ooze seems really good when we're milling our opponent off of Thief's ability. So we'll take the Scavenging Ooze. I guess we need green mana to use it, so actually that was probably not the play. We're probably supposed to just get Llanowar Elves and play it there, but I guess Scavenging Ooze is also just the biggest creature, even if we don't have green mana to use its ability. It's a 2/2 for 2, and it's the card that I would at least like to play against if they happen to have any form of recursion, although that's not likely in green-white, mainly just in black in this cube. They do have the Seal Away to deal with the Thief of Sanity, unfortunately, so we just get the one swing out of it. We do have Shark Typhoon and Boon of the Wishgiver the turn after we play that. Yeah, Llanowar Elves would have been pretty good here. Definitely a punt. I can spend mana of any color to cast it, but not mana of any color to use its abilities. So it was a punt, not realizing I'm not going to be using Scavenging Ooze's ability there. Still the biggest creature we could have taken, but ramping into a Shark Typhoon was pretty good there as a potential play. Lyra Dawnbringer from our opponent. We might have to just play an Icy Manipulator and get that thing locked down. Yeah, I don't think I can let that start attacking me, so we'll play Icy Manipulator here. Go for Shark Typhoon next turn. Bestiary is putting in a lot of work here, allowing them to scry every turn and draw whenever they cast a creature. Very powerful draw engine for the green decks. Let's see what kind of follow-up they have for the Dawnbringer. Angel of Invention. Are they just Angel Tribal? That's a possibility. It's possible that their Foretold card is the thing that makes X Angels. If it is, I think the only deck that could win this game would be something that outraced them or had a counterspell to counter that. Because if somebody resolves the thing that makes X Angels, it's mega over. Alright, so we've got 7 mana now. I could kick an Inscription of Ruin, although if I do that, I don't get to hold up mana for Ice Manipulator, which is pretty bad. I guess our position here is pretty bad in general. They discard 2. We return nothing from grave, but they discard 2 and destroy something with mana cost 3 or less. Yeah, no, Inscription's not good here. Just discard 2 and kill a servo. So we just play Shark Typhoon and Ice Manipulator. And hopefully we can cast spells like Boon of the Wishgiver to just keep getting big enough sharks to block their flyers. If we cast Boon next turn, we get a 6/6 flying shark. So if this isn't the thing that makes X Angels, then I think we've got a pretty solid chance here that Shark Typhoon can go off. But against green-white, that is also the most likely color pair to have Artifact or Enchantment removal. Mirari's Wake, oh dear. That's pretty big here. Give the whole field +1/+1, and now all of their mana is doubled, and they do immediately have the Reclamation Sage for Shark Typhoon. That is straight up just going to end us here. Although we can still draw 4 off Boon of Wishgiver, and by drawing 4 off of the Boon, we can see if we can draw into anything else to get out of here, but it's not likely. We don't have any Wraths in this deck. We do have a Maze Mind Tome here. I do kind of like just casting Inscription now, but if I don't tap down Lyra, I take 11 in the sky. So if I kick the Inscription to discard and kill Reclamation Sage, then I can't use Icy, which is bad. Yeah, I guess I just do the discard too, so I can still tap down Lyra. Get rid of a Vizier of the Menagerie and Imperious Perfect. Maze Mind Tome and Boon of the Wishgiver are our options now. So we play the Tome, and we still have the 1 mana up for Icy, and 1 mana to potentially just cycle our Boon of the Wishgiver. If this is the Angel spell with Mirari's Wake, it is so going off here. To like insane amounts. I forgot to tap down with Icy. Just missed my chance to click here, unfortunately. But we were already at 100% chance to lose this game, so it's no biggie here. I do really want to see what the Foretold card is before the game end, though. Actually, I really want it to be the X Angel spell here at this point. This is the only block that we survive on because I forgot to use Icy Manipulator. We don't have any draws in our deck that can get us out of this one at this point, so I'm not that sad about it. Just gonna scry 1, throw Obliterator on bottom because it doesn't work. Tap Lifecrafter's Bestiary. Cycle a Boon. Just kind of doing whatever here. We're mega dead. Alright, yeah. There we go. Scoop them up here. See what the Foretold card is here. Glorious Protector. So it is Angel Tribal, but it's not the X Angels spell. So they get to use this in response to a removal spell to blink one of their angels, put it underneath the Protector, so when the Protector dies, they get that angel back. Really solid deck from our opponent, just Selesnya Angels over there. Obviously the biggest downside of our deck coming in again, our curve is pretty bad. We just don't have a lot going on in the early game for sure. So we were all in on our Thief of Sanity there, and they did have the removal for it, unfortunately. So that did slow us down a lot. In a pretty slow hand with a lot of like 6 mana plays like the Shark Typhoon and stuff. See what we got here. Ooh, could try to command the Dreadhorde for the win. in this game, if we can make it there. Uh-oh. Well, pretty sure this is our worst matchup, so I'm pretty scared. If we can draw immediately into 2 swamps, that could be good here. Thoughtseize is still worth casting, because if it gets rid of like a 2-mana 2/2 haste, it's saving us much more damage than would be otherwise. Alright, well I'm actually not scared now. I'm against a Boros deck, but they have a 7-mana card in hand and a removal spell. So if I just get rid of Heroic Reinforcements, they just have a Bomat Courier. And that is the only thing damaging us in the early game. And removal isn't even that good against Illyrios, because we still get to keep 1 creature out of it, because it does create 2. We get to use this Evolving Wilds for a black mana, get closer to Phyrexian Obliterator, which should be absolutely incredible against their deck if we can cast it. Alright, I'm feeling way better now that I've seen their hand. Although Bomat Courier does give them a new hand for 1 mana, they discard the Courier and replace their hand with whatever they've exiled under the Courier, which is 3 cards right now. We're casting Illyrios before Thief of Sanity because we know that they have Lava Coil in hand, and we don't want our Thief of Sanity to just get Lava Coiled. We could have also just played a Swamp there and not played a blocker, in the hopes that we top deck another Swamp in the next turn to just immediately cast Obliterator. So they have Cast Out and Starnheim Unleashed here. They can't foretell the Starnheim because it's exiled, but they can still cast it as a single 4/4 flyer. They've started slow enough that I think we have a decent chance here. We can Rankle and make them sacrifice the Bomat Courier. Seems good. Alright. Definitely each player sacks a creature. They have 3 cards in hand, so they might have something that they're not that worried about discarding. And we do want this Swamp for Obliterator and Command the Dreadhorde, so I don't think we want to discard here. I also don't really want to do the draw more spells thing, because Obliterator is like a solid play next turn. See, I don't think we draw and lose a life either, because we're giving them more cards that way also, and losing life I think is worse for us than them. Yeah, we'll just sack a creature there. So they only have 5 mana, so they can't cast a 4/4 flyer from Starnheim Unleashed and play something else to give it a +1/+1 counter this turn. But they could cast a flyer from Starnheim Unleashed and put counters on it next turn, because the second part of Showdown of the Scalds happens twice. It happens on part 2 and part 3. They're going to go for the 4/4 flyer here. And we do draw into Grasp of Darkness that we could use against that to kill it right now. When we cast a spell this turn? Yeah, so unless they have a pump spell, we just get to kill it immediately. Awesome, and we get to cast Thief of Sanity, although the problem is they're just going to Lava Coil the Thief, but now they're down to 8. Now I'm actually okay with the lose life draw. Do want to hit my 6th land pretty bad for Command the Dreadhorde. Although it is a risky play against a red deck, but they're down to 7 now, so we're actually just out aggroing the red deck. Kind of just an awkward start for the Boros deck there. Some pretty expensive cards in hand for sure. Dragonkin Berserker coming out here. 2/2 First Striker. Every time they cast a spell this turn, they put a +1/+1 counter on something, so they can put a counter on the Berserker. They're going to Thundering Rebuke. Oh no, they got 2 removal spells, so they get to rebuke the Rough. They get to rebuke Rankle and Coil the Thief. Well, if Dragonkin Berserker attacks, we block with Phyrexian Obliterator and make them sacrifice at least 4 permanents. If they try to throw a pump spell on Berserker or a damage spell on Obliterator, we make them sacrifice even more permanents. So, Obliterator does seem very good here to block Berserker. I don't really think they can afford to attack with Dragonkin Berserker if they don't have removal for the Obliterator, and half of the removal is not good on Obliterator. Any damage-based removal is pretty awful for them, so any red removal But if they do draw another white removal spell like a Cast Out, that would be quite good against Phyrexian Obliterator here. It would definitely be the play for this turn. The fact that they haven't cast anything yet makes me think they may not have the white removal, but they do have the mana to cast Drakuzeth. So if they block with anything when I attack, they have to sacrifice at least 4 things. That's if they chump block. If they block to kill it, they have to sacrifice 7 things. But Drakuzeth gets to attack, deal 4 damage to our face, so it deals 11 by itself. So that's pretty risky. We have 5 cards in grave. We need 2 more for Liliana to kill Drakuzeth. But if they block, we can use Liliana to finish it off. If we command the Dreadhorde here, we get back a Showdown of the Scalds, Bowmount Courier, Rankle, Illyrios. Doesn't actually seem that good. Don't know if that pushes in for lethal. If we command the Dreadhorde and we don't kill them immediately, we definitely die, because paying any life here, if we pay 3 life, we're at 11, which is dead to 1 shot from Drakuzeth. I think we just attack with Obliterator, because we can't block Drakuzeth. So they can just attack with Drakuzeth, deal 4 to us, 3 to our 3/2, which is really bad for us. The only way we know we get something off of Obliterator is by attacking in here. We do put them to 2 here, so if we can survive next turn, then we win. Also, if there's anything that deals damage when it enters the battlefield. There's nothing that deals damage when it enters the battlefield. Liliana can kill the Dragonkin Berserker, so Drakuzeth just attacks in for 11, but doesn't kill us by itself. They need a burn spell as well, and it doesn't do enough damage to kill Obliterator, so they need a blocker to be able to attack him with Drakuzeth. If they have a burn spell, they kill us. If they have a blocker, they can attack, but if they don't have either, they can't even attack here without dying. I guess if they don't have either, we just attack with both and win. So that they just scoop them up like that. Whew. Actually pretty scary at the end there. But I would say the very start and the very end of that game were quite scary. You know, when I saw that I was against a red deck, I was scared until I thought seized them, and I was like, oh, it's a slow red deck, a slow Boros deck. But then they did make it to the end game, they made it to the Drakuzeth man, and then I was like, okay, it's time to be scared again. Alright. This is such a risky keep, but I love it in a way, as much as I probably shouldn't. Just because of the potential of turn 4 Obliterator. Opponent's going first, so we're on the draw here. We've got 4 turns to draw 2 swamps. If we draw an island, that'll be great for Thief. I have a Feed the Swarm to kill their first thing. Oh my god, we have 3 black mana here. We even have the Dream Play, turn 4 Obliterator, turn 5 Grey Merchant, for all that black devotion. Opponent starts with a Paradise Druid. Unfortunately, that does have hexproof, so Feed the Swarm does nothing yet. We do take 2 from it. It is tapped down now, so we could kill it with a Feed the Swarm now, but they also have Palladium Mirror, which taps for 2 mana instead of just 1. Although we lose life equal to the cost, so we lose more life by killing the mirror. Although I think I'm more scared of them dropping like a 7 mana card next turn than I am of losing 1 extra life there, especially when we have Grey Merchant later in this game to gain us a lot of life, hopefully. So they are in green-white, not mono-green here, and Rishkar Pima Renegade's quite solid. Puts a +1/+1 counter on 2 creatures, and all their creatures with counters on them can tap for a green now. Inscription of Ruin is the draw. Against an opponent with 3 cards in hand, that's potentially good. But I can also play an Obliterator, and if they don't have white removal for this, this is going to be awesome. Because white removal would exile it, but green removal, they have to fight it at the very least, which makes them sacrifice stuff, so I'm going to go for it. The dream here is that they don't have removal. We draw land next turn and just drop Grey Merchant. Just living the absolute dream. Hornet Queen, well, that is a really good way to deal with an Phyrexian Obliterator on blocks. Because they can just block it with a single creature, and then they only sacrifice one thing, and it's dead. It does trample over, but it's definitely not worth an attack now. Do we play Grey Merchant? Do we Inscription them? Grey Merchant gains us a lot of life, which is important because we're down to 12 and they have a ton of flyers now. Phyrexian Obliterator can block one of these 3 power creatures. We take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're not quite dead on the ground, so I actually think I Inscription here. So we know they don't have any follow-up plays that they were planning on. Oh yeah, they had a Finale of Devastation. Can't really attack in with Obliterator against all these Death Touchers, unfortunately. And it's looking likely we might just get chipped out of this game in the sky. Down to 6 life now. Really hoping for Grey Merchant to help us survive here. I mean, now we can attack in with Obliterator pretty well. They have to double block to kill it, and if they double block, they do kill it, but then they have to sacrifice 6 things. I guess we do have to worry about blocking here, but we have the 2-4 to block the 3-2. 6, 7, 8, 9. We take 9 here. We definitely survive, unless they can remove Grey Merchant. We've got to try to push in for a kill somehow here, because Hornet Queen kills us in 2 turns regardless. Like, no matter what we do. So we've got to put that pressure in and potentially crack back for lethal with our big trampler. They have Garruk here. I don't think that lethals us, but that's pretty bad. See how they attack here. If they attack all, I have the mildest chance, I think. It's not high, though, because I can only hit for 7, so they go to 2. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I guess the block is forced here, so I lose Grey Merchant. So I hit for 5, they go to 4. Do I have any outs in my deck here? Could command the Dreadhorde just to bring Grey Merchant back if I have enough life. I need to have 5 life after this block, but I don't think I do. We'll find out. If I have 5 life, I can win. Oh. I guess I needed 6 life, not 5 life, but I could command the Dreadhorde and bring back Grey Merchant. That would be lethal. That being said, I can't command the Dreadhorde for anything here. I could command for Palladium Mirror, but that doesn't do it. I can cast Cruel Reality, but it's just going to make them sacrifice one of their 1/1s. Probably the worst possible game for Cruel Reality. Yeah, we can't win. We die in the sky, unfortunately. That is going to end the run for the mostly mono-black deck. Really wanted to live the Obliterator Grey Merchant dream. That just seemed like a fun time to me, but we are just playing against more consistent, more generally put together decks, unfortunately. Trying to think if maybe holding on to Feed the Swarm may have won us the game. I don't think so. Technically, if we hadn't cast Feed the Swarm by now, we would have 7 life. But that's if they never attacked us with Palladium Mirror, and with Palladium Mirror and Paradise Druid out, they could have cast Hornet Queen like 3 turns earlier if it was in their hand, or potentially even cast Finale of Devastation for a really brutal card. So I don't think that, like, casting Feed the Swarm early cost us the game or anything. I was just trying to think of any massive misplays where we could have turned things around, maybe with one more attack from Obliterator or anything. I just don't think we had an out to the Hornet Queen. Hornet Queen's a pretty devastating card, establishing a great field of blockers and a really hard to block field as well to chip away your opponent's life total pretty quickly. Only takes like 3 swings, even when they Grey Merchant. So that is going to end today's Arena Cube Draft, a 2-3 run here. Not the greatest, of course, but still not a bad record thus far on Arena Cube. We got a 2-3, a 5-3, and a 4-3, I think. Doing all right thus far. do want to see if I can make a 7-win. Definitely will be doing these Arena Cube drafts whenever I can until the launch of Strixhaven, so stay tuned for more of those if you're interested. Keep doing all the things you're doing, like, comment, subscribe, all of those goodies, and if you want to see more of this content, you're at the right place, so just stick around, and as always, I would like to thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow for some more, well, I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena. Thank you.